Hi there, this is Jeanette, and I have a birthday card to share with you today. You can see that the elements are actually on the inside of the card, but by cutting out an aperture in the front of the card, you can see the scene that's inside. And then I did add a few elements on the outside of the card just to add some interest. So this was a birthday card that I created for my sister. So she loves to read, and she has a little puppy and a little kitty cat, so I thought this was the perfect card for her. So I have a die set from Mama Elephant that I'm going to be using, as well as a stamp set from My Favorite Things. It's called Our Story, and you can see it comes with so many different elements. So I'm going to be using this large scallop die to create the front of the card, and I'll be using the circle to create the aperture. First thing I'm going to do though is I'm going to take a piece of Neenah cardstock, and using my MFT I am going to ink up all the stamps that I'm going to need to create my scene. And I'm using the MFT so that I can re-stamp if it doesn't stamp as dark or as crisply as I'd like. And then I'm just going to clean off my stamps and replace them so I don't lose them. And now I am going to be coloring in the image with Copic markers. So I'm listing the colors in the order that I'm using them so that you can sort of follow along if you want to recreate this. And my sister has a golden doodle, so that's why I'm coloring the dog this color. So just a very quick sort of shading. I'm using 3 colors, but you can see how quickly it's going because the markers are very close in numbers together, so the shading goes very, very quickly. And I'll just go over it until it is blended the way I want it to be blended. I'm going to add a little bit of dark gray there for the nose. And then I'm going to start on the cat, and the beginning of the coloration for the cat is a little bit off screen. I apologize for that, but I quickly figured out that you couldn't see it, so now you can see the rest of the coloring. And again, this is a small image, so I did start with my darker colors and then move into my lighter colors. And I'm going to add some stripes to the cat, but I'm going to let the ink dry before I do that. Now I'm going to work on the chair. So this is exactly like a big sort of comfy chair that my sister has. So I'm coloring it the same color as her chair. And I'm going to be sharing with you how I added texture to the chair. So usually if I were to color this, I probably would start with the figure first. But because I'm doing this technique, I need to leave the rest of it uncolored, so that when I do the technique, I won't mess up my coloring. So that'll make more sense when I get to that part. So right now I'm just blending. I'm using the tip of my darker marker. I'm picking up some of that darker marker with my lighter marker just to help ease blending these colors. So you can do this if you're having a hard time blending 2 colors together, or even if you have colors that are a little far apart, you don't have that sort of mid shade, you can sort of use this technique. So for these colors that I chose, they're the same shade as my sister's chair, but yeah, I was having a little bit of trouble blending them. They weren't the easiest things to blend together, and probably because my markers are a little bit dry. I'm sort of due to sort of refill a lot of my markers, so I have to sort of put aside part of a day to do that, and I never feel like doing it. I always feel like coloring instead, but I really do have to refill my markers and clean them up a little bit. They're a bit dirty, so that'll be something I'll have to do in the next few weeks. So again, you see that I'm just using this tip-to-tip method to do my blend, and the technique that I'm going to be using is basically I'm going to be taking a stamp. So I have a background stamp from Hero Arts. It's called, I think, the envelope stamp. I'll be leaving all the links to everything I use below this video. But I'm going to be taking that stamp and I'm going to fill up a little mini mister with some Copic blender solution. I'm going to mist over the stamp, and then I'm going to press it down over my colored image. And it's a little out of focus, but you're going to be able to see that that cross hatch is now on the couch. So I created some texture by doing that. Now, because I'm using the colorless blender, you'll see that some of the marker colors did bleed over the edges and onto the figure. So that's why I didn't color that first. I'm able to use my colorless blender to sort of push all that color away. I'm going to let it dry, and then I'll be able to color my image no problem. So the rest of the coloring is sort of exactly the same way. I'm going to put a little music on for you so you can listen to that and watch the coloring, and then I'll come back once the coloring is all done to share with you how I put the card together. So if you want to skip the rest of this, you can sort of skip to about halfway to the video and you'll see how I put the card together. If not, enjoy the coloration and I will catch you at the end of it. Okay, so now that everything is colored, I am going to cut everything out using my dies. This is the first time I'm using them, so I am snipping them apart. And I will link a very similar snipper to this. I get a lot of questions about it, so I'll link that below this video as well. So as I usually do, I use Post-it tape to hold all the dies in place, and I try to cut everything out at the same time to save time. And once that's all out, I'm going to create my card. So the first thing I'm going to do is create this sort of scalloped card front. Then I'm going to position that over my card base. I'm going to hold it in place with some Post-it tape. And now I'm going to cut out the aperture. So I'll be able to cut out the aperture through both layers so that everything will line up beautifully when I put my card together. So you can see it cut through both. So now I'm going to stamp a sentiment on that card front here. I'm going to secure it down first with some Post-it tape and some magnets, and then I'll be using Memento Tuxedo Black ink to stamp the sentiment, and I did stamp it twice to get it really nice and dark. Now I'm going to add some foam tape to that card front. And you can see I'm just sort of cutting everything to size, trimming it. I really do want to have foam everywhere so that it doesn't sort of cave in or push in. So I did take the time to sort of cut all the little bits and pieces, and then I just pulled off the release paper and I can pop it right on top of the card, and it fits perfectly because I did cut those out, the aperture out of both of them at the same time. So now I can start placing all my elements. I'm just going to make sure before I adhere them that they're exactly where I want them to be. I'm going to tuck that chest of drawers behind the couch, and I guess I don't remember doing this, but I don't know why I didn't put the books down. I guess I wasn't sure if I really did want them on the chest, so I sort of left that to the end. I'm going to put the little kitty cat down, and I'm going to make sure that you can see him through the opening. And then I did end up putting the books up on top of that piece of furniture after all. Now I am going to stamp a little sentiment on the inside. And I think it says relax, read, and repeat, which I thought was really cool. The ink I used at first was too light, so I did move on to this Tide Pool color, which was nice and dark. And then the last thing I did was I took some of these enamel dots by Whimsy, and I scattered them over the front of the card and basically just sort of matched the colors that I used to choose my dots. And that's it. My card is all done. I hope you enjoyed watching me create this birthday card for my sister. A full list of supplies and links can be found below this video on YouTube or on my blog. Thanks so much for watching.